everyone, and welcome. And the topic we'll be talking about today are what are victimization surveys? So some key takeaways for today. First, obviously, we're going to talk about what is a victimization survey, and how do we attain the data for those surveys. We're also going to talk about what are some issues with official crime reports. How and when did victimization surveys come to be used? And then finally, what are some potential limitations of victimization surveys? So to start off, victimization is the study of how individuals become victims of crime and the resulting impact on those victims. Now, with that background knowledge, we'll go into victimization surveys. They're studies that collect data on criminal victimization. This includes both reported crimes and non-reported crimes. The surveys are administered by the U.S. Census Bureau, which is then given to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Now, some might be wondering, how do we collect non-reported data? So going into that, this is taken straight from the National Crime Victimization Survey. It basically explains what the process is if you are chosen to be part of the survey. So to start off, if your household is selected, you'll get a letter in the mail. Two, they'll call and schedule an interview. Let me know that anybody over the age of 12 can participate. So from a very young age, you can participate in this survey. The third, they're just going to ask about your demographics. And four, when you're interviewed, it'll be once every 6 months over a 3-year period. So that is then for a total of 7 times. So I feel like it's a pretty easy process, and it doesn't take too much out of anyone's day, and it's enough that the Bureau will get the information they need and not bother too many civilians out of that. So then the information that is collected, and this is from the Bureau of Justice Statistics website, they want to know if you know who the offender is, their age, race, sex, and maybe you have a possible relationship to the victim. They also want to know characteristics of the crime, time and place of occurrence, were any weapons used, and also were any injuries sustained. They want to know, was the crime reported to police? If not, then why? This is where that non-reported data comes in. But again, the crime could have been reported. They still want to know. They just want kind of a bird's eye view from the civilians living in neighborhoods of what they see and maybe what they can do better. And then this also helps with their data. And finally, they want to know the victim's experience with the criminal justice system.
That brings us to the history of victimization surveys. Beginning with the birth of the victimization survey, the first victimization survey was conducted between January 1971 and July 1972 by the Census Bureau. It started as a small collection of additional questions to the pre-existing quarterly household survey, the QHS for short. Formerly known as the National Crime Survey, the NCS for short, from 1972 to 1991, it was created for the purpose of obtaining crime data. This data will be complementary with already existing police reports used alongside UCR to better understand victim testimony to crimes. It was reestablished as the National Crime Victimization Survey, the NCVS for short, in 1991 for increased data analysis and broader understanding of underreported victim testimonials. Here are examples of both the NCS and the NCVS. A striking difference between the two being the overall color scheme and the nature of the questions involved. Primarily, the NCS would omit information related to victim-offender relationships, while the NCVS will place emphasis on this. Another glaring difference between the two is the similarity between bubble sheet testing and the NCVS crime sheet. This is because it also takes in computer aid to also help with better detail analysis and accuracy. Overall differences between the NCS and the NCVS consist of the NCS being created in 1972, discontinued in 1991, limited in scope and precision due to lack of access to digital information categorization, used to complement existing police reports with victim testimony, designed to be used alongside the UCR once again. It's no options for offender-victim relationship input or application of wider applicable context. Leaves vastly underreported details as far as the nature of crimes. The NCVS, on the other hand, was created in 1991 and is currently still in use. It utilizes computer-assisted personal interviewing data, CAPI for short, for better accuracy when reviewing data. It builds upon existing survey standards while also updating outdated questionnaires and emphasizing details typically not required by the NCS. It provides victims a chance to note potential relationships to the offender and the nature of said relationships as well.
Victimization surveys address compared to other forms of reporting. One of the problems addressed is bias in police data. Police records reflect crimes known to and reported by law enforcement, which can vary depending on police priorities, resources, and community relations. Victimization surveys reduce this bias by going directly to victims instead of relying on police discretion. The second problem addressed is differences in legal definitions. Official statistics depend on how laws define crimes, which can vary by jurisdiction over time, and victimization surveys use standardized questions, allowing for more consistent comparisons across regions and years. Third up is underreporting to police. Many crimes are never reported to law enforcement, for example, like domestic violence, sexual assault, and like minor theft. Victimization surveys capture these like more hidden crimes by asking people directly about their experiences, which show the gap between actual crime and reported crime. Last up, we have an incomplete picture of victim experiences. Police records often focus on offenders and incidents rather than victim experiences. Victimization surveys collect data on impact, fear, and reporting behavior, which offer a fuller understanding of how crime affects people. And now we kind of have to go over the limitations of victimization surveys, which include number one being limited coverage of certain crimes. Victimization surveys are less effective at capturing crimes that don't have identifiable or surviving victims. Offenses like homicide, corporate fraud, cybercrime, and organized crime are all examples, and they're often missing from the survey data. Because of this limited scope, victimization surveys cannot provide a complete picture of overall crime levels or trends within a society. Next up is offender information. Victimization surveys are valuable for understanding the experiences of victims, and they provide very little information about offenders. They typically don't collect like detailed info on perpetrators' backgrounds, motivations, or behaviors leading up to the incident. As a result, researchers cannot use these surveys to study criminal profiles. Third up is victimization of juveniles. Victimization surveys often exclude or underrepresent juveniles, especially very young children, due to ethical and practical challenges in interviewing minors. Since children may not be able to accurately recall or articulate their experiences, their victimization is frequently reported secondhand or omitted altogether. This creates significant gaps in understanding the extent of nature of crimes against youth. And last up, we have memory errors. Victimization surveys rely on people accurately recalling and reporting their experiences with crime. However, respondents may forget incidents, use the timing of events, or choose to disclose sensitive experiences such as sexual assault or domestic violence. This leads to underreporting and recall bias, which can make the data less reliable and cause certain crimes to appear less frequently than they really are. Thank you for listening.
Infinite elixir. What the fuck? This nigga has infinite elixir. I swear to God.